podcast today. I am Elisa Meredith of, that's a good way to start, isn't it? When you can't say your own name right.
See, now you always give me a hard time that I can't. I go Alyssa, and you can't even do it right. So,
well, it's written on the screen, so that's who I am. Yeah. I am joined by Jeff C. of Manly Pinterest Tips, and he is also the manager of Social Media Examiner's Instagram account. So he knows a little something about Instagram. Speaking of Instagram, that's why we're here today. And our topic is creating an Instagram strategy. So why are we doing that?
I don't know. You asked me here, and I just thought I'd show up. No, it's important. And in fact, I just did a podcast episode about this. I had Peg Fitzpatrick on, and we talked about optimizing for Instagram. One of the things, Instagram to me is the platform that is moving the fastest and has the most updates. Eric Fisher and I break news over on Social Media Examiner's channel twice a week at least. And one of the things we're always talking about is Instagram changes. And so there's a lot of changes. A lot of people are using it. That's seeing a lot of traction, and it's growing crazily. So I think when you think about an Instagram strategy, you need to think about, what are you getting? You should ask this for any channel. Like, what are you wanting out of Instagram? I mean, why are you doing it? Why are you spending time on it? Because to be honest, it may not be the best channel for you to be on. If you're a small business and you have limited amount of time and you are not maybe super visual, it may not be. I mean, it really may not be. You have to decide that for yourself. But, you need to look at your end audience and what they're using. And if they're on Instagram and your key audience is on Instagram, then you ought to probably think of, okay, how can I optimize that for my benefit?
Okay. So like one of the first things that we would think about is then who is your audience?
Yeah. Right. So I manage for another account, I manage a chocolate factory. It's one of the it is the largest handmade chocolate factory in the United States. It's called Sweet Shop USA. And one of the things with them is they want to get their product out. And so they have a whole commercial side where they make it for big companies, and then they have it to the individual one, and they even have a local store. So I have to try to think of, okay, how can my Instagram strategy work with that? Because they're handmade and they're actually decorating by hand. It works perfectly for Instagram. So that makes sense for me to spend time crafting posts, crafting, how that's going to work, creating videos. And for now, we've really started the beginning of this year really trying to optimize the shop, being able to shop directly from Instagram and Facebook and how they tie together. And so that's what our strategy is. We sat down, we thought about that. We're like, okay, how can we get our customers who are online to use Instagram as a place where they can actually purchase? So that's kind of an example of that. One of the things Peg and I talked about last time is don't go on Instagram and think that it's going to drive a lot of traffic. It's just most people don't get a lot of traffic from Instagram. And so we were talking about Pinterest versus Instagram, and her number one is Pinterest driving traffic to her site. So you don't really want to give up something that's working to throw all your eggs into the Instagram basket. But if you can use them together and maybe cross-purpose some images and stuff like that, it probably will be a perfect fit for you.
Yeah, I suggest that too, especially if you are a VA and you have a client and they're trying to decide, do they want to do Instagram or Pinterest? I suggest you do both, because they're going to get a little bit of instant gratification from Instagram where you see all that engagement right away. But then in the meantime, you're building all of that foundation on Pinterest, which is going to serve them for weeks, months, and years ahead. So absolutely, totally different platforms, but they both have value.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, I was just you kind of touched on the goals. So there can be a lot of different goals for Instagram. It's going to be different from Pinterest or from Google search or whatever. So one of the ones that I have seen used really well is the goal of hiring or recruiting. People use it to show their company culture and how fun it is to work. Constant Contact did that for a while, and it was fun. They would show employee fails, where people would confess the dumbest things they've ever done on the job. And it was just very humanizing, and you kind of feel like, oh, they have a sense of humor about that. That's where I'd like to work.
Yeah, and they'd use it for Instagram perfectly, as they would have the
Yeah.
chalkboard and they'd write those up there and they'd have the employee hold it, which is a
Yes.
great way to, use the visual kind of behind the scenes stuff for Instagram, and also, you know, not poke fun, but the behind the scenes stuff I think can be really huge, especially if you can, Instagram has evolved, and so there's almost two facets to it, and you need to have a strategy probably for both. Is what is your posts, which are your posts that are out there, and you're posting every day, or twice a day, or whatever you're doing, or once a week, whatever. And then your stories, which is a whole
Yeah.
nother thing, and a lot of people are using stories now, Instagram stories, to share the behind the scenes stuff, or talk directly to the customer, or to showcase something.
Mhm.
And so your strategy, I mean, it can still fit in the same way, but you really need to think about, okay, how can I use this video? Because it's a video platform. I mean, you can take still shots, but a lot of people for stories like the video, and use that to, talk to your audience.
Yeah.
Because the cool thing is we've noticed at Social Media Examiner and some of the other accounts, is when you do a story and do a post, it kind of boosts that engagement, because you have that little on your icon. It shows that, hey, he has a new story, and you can direct people to go look at your post, or
Mhm.
if you have a promotion, you can use those in conjunction together. So using those strategically, I think, are a big thing that people really need to think about.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because when you use a story and that boosts your overall engagement, then if you follow that up with a regular post, that's going to
Mm-hmm.
benefit from that engagement that you've built up.
Yeah.
Um, so just to talk about other goals we might have, I think what you mentioned might work really well towards brand or product awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of videos. They're great for events, right? So social Media Examiner does a lot on Instagram
Right.
with their events. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the goal for our Instagram channel is pretty clear. We used to when we first started, if you go all the way back to the beginning, we were actually putting like the graphics from our articles up there, trying to get people to read the article.
Mhm.
Now we decided it's just about the conference. It's about social media marketing world. We show behind the scenes pictures. We show pictures at the conference. We take pictures of our speakers, like Elisa was there, and a quote graphic that we create for her, that tells, hey, Elisa's there. She's going to be talking about this. We've also done video posts, but it's all the whole overarching strategy is about the conference.
Yeah.
And now we're using stories to still point people in that direction. We'll ask questions. We also have been using stories because Mike Stelzner has come out with this thing called The Journey, which is a YouTube kind of documentary about the journey of Social Media Examiner.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually, on Thursdays when that comes out, I take the video and I edit it into a trailer that'll fit in the 10-second story kind of format.
Oh, cool.
And I push that up there. And since we have a large account and we're verified, we have over 10,000 followers, so we can have the swipe up feature in stories.
Yeah.
We can take them and put them over to watch the full video. So we're using it almost like a little mini trailer, behind the scenes stuff. The cool thing is now with you can use any story, anything in your camera roll for a story. Is I'll have people, and Social Media Examiner spread out. I mean, we have people in the Netherlands, all across the United States and the UK, and I'll have the team members say if they're going to go, they're doing something like right now, they're scouting out locations for the parties or whatever's going on. I'll say, take some video on your phone, and they send it to me, and then I can use it as a story. So that's one of the goals, and one of the things you guys need to think about. If you have a team, is it doesn't have to be always just you and your camera. They can take pictures, they can take video and send it to you, and you can upload it to the stories page and tell a story that way and brand yourself that way.
That's a great idea. Then you don't risk sharing account information, and that's perfect. So your goal is very focused on Instagram,
Right.
but I think it's fine to kind of spread out. Christy Thurman asked, should I promote my blog post on IG stories? And I'll tell you that Melissa does that here at Tailwind, and we get a tremendous amount of interaction because we have that 10,000 followers. You can swipe up and go to the blog post. We get a lot of clicks to the blog post. I have a blog, and when I put a blog post out, I will share that on my account. It doesn't look just like the blog post image, right? Because it seems like, to me anyway, text on image is not a great seller on Instagram. So it's usually more of an abstract kind of image, maybe a lifestyle image. and then the caption, use a caption.
It depends, because every once when I do my like quote graphics, which I thought were dying out,
yes.
they still work really well. But when I do, one of the things that when I post a blog post I'm talking about my own personal stuff now, is that I make 3 different graphics, one for Tailwind, one for Instagram, and one for my blog. And I post that, and I still see, my personal account is not over the 10,000, so I still have to go like link in bio kind of stuff, and I still see traffic from them. But the more important thing that I get when I do that is interaction with people. That it still seems to be that people really love to interact on Instagram, and
that's with your blog post images.
Yeah, blog post images. But I really optimize it for Instagram. I don't just throw up my normal graphic and just hope that it works. I make it a square graphic. I shrink my text down. I make sure it looks good and fits in my aesthetic on my Instagram account, and I still see a lot of engagement that way. And that's what I want, because I can't drive traffic now unless for the link in the bio. So I want people to talk about. So a lot of times I'll post that my blog graphic, and then I'll ask a question. Like if I'm doing, how can Tailwind help optimize Instagram blog, just for example, then I'll say, have you tried Tailwind's new Instagram feature, and see what happens and interact with them that way. Yeah. So always ask a question, I think.
Awesome. Okay. So we've talked about using Instagram for hiring, for brand product awareness, for event awareness, even for traffic. I think sales would fit in there nicely with the brand and product awareness. A whole feed of just plain product images isn't going to do anything for you, but your IG can definitely support that. So
back to that, because I'm going to go back to the candy thing. One of the best thing we found out with Instagram is when we post a graphic, people now are posting because we sell it in other shops, they'll post a picture of it in their shop, and they'll arrange it a lot of times better than we will, and they'll tag us in the post. Well, then of course I go, hey, can we reshare this on our accounts? And I've never had anybody say no. And so I reshare it to my Instagram account, which is user generated content. It makes my account look a lot better. And then also, most of the time they've already shared it on Facebook, so I go find them, I like the page as the company, and then I can share that on my Facebook page as well. And so I have another place where I'm getting, and I'm like, oh, these people, they're all over. This store's selling them too. And I'm always really, hey, if you're in this such and such a place, make sure you check out this store that sells our product. And it's been a great way. People love that. I'm seeing people tag us a lot more. And so it's been a really good feature for us to use Instagram.
Yeah. And I always try to, if it's appropriate, to tag the location. So if I'm here, I'll tag Wilmington, North Carolina. And I've seen studies that show that gets you a lot more engagement. And that would make a lot of sense for a brand like that. So if you had user generated content from Utah, you could tag that area. And local people are going to find it. I always think it's funny that the local people to my area who engage with my content, like pest control companies, and I don't care who it is, if they're interested and they're around, that's great. So we talked a bit about this, about how Instagram can support these kind of goals by showing behind the scenes. This is really the place for that. And getting people to engage. So I think one of the key things that we talked a bit about last week when we talked about having a profile is the branding.
Right.
So, and we're talking about Instagram strategy. So these are things we need to have in mind before we start posting, hopefully.
Yeah. And so, if you look at my personal account, I do a lot of testing there, but everything still fits in kind of a retro theme. So I post my blog posts. I post, like last night, we have a new puppy that we got around Christmas, and she's so adorable. But I still made the filter and everything look like, so it fits in that retro kind of theme aesthetic. So you want to start out and really think about what you like, because you're going to do more of what you like on Instagram. If you're like, I hate what we picked, I don't want to do it. If you have something that you're enjoying doing and you're finding out and trying to kind of experiment, okay, what's a retro font I can use, or what's, what kind of filter, that will cause you to enjoy your Instagram experience more. But also, and once you've nailed down that, everybody knows that's kind of the way things look. If you look at Elisa's post, that's Elisa's post because she's keeping it that in that aesthetic, and it fits her brand. And so I don't think you have to kill yourself trying to figure out your brand, and it's okay to mix it up a little bit, but really, spend some time before you really invest a ton of time, a lot of money creating graphics or whatever, to think about what you really want that Instagram account to look like. So don't just spray it and pray, kind of, okay, whatever happens, I'm going to just throw it up there and hope and see what sticks and what does well. Yeah. Really think about, how in the future that's going to move along, and it can evolve and change. I mean, even Peg's logo had changed over time, but she made it all fit and it's seamless, and her account just looks beautiful, the same way as Elisa's. And so just kind of, spend some time. You don't have to, like I said, kill yourself, but spend some time thinking about what you want to happen with your brand.
Yeah, and I would suggest looking at other accounts, maybe even specifically people who are not in your industry, so you don't feel like you're copying somebody, maybe a competitor. But look at the color schemes, the fonts, the styles, the filters people use, and figure out what makes me happy. What do I want to see on my 9Grid all the time? And you can obviously, if you get to the point where you're like, this doesn't work anymore, you can change it. But having that consistency, I always know when there's a Jeff or a Peg post and I stop.
Sometimes that's not a good thing, but yeah.
Well, a lot of times lately it's puppies. So
yes, it is puppies. So it's a lot of puppies now, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Okay. So let's think about strategy for what we're going to schedule. So some people will have like they'll do Throwback Thursday consistently. I have not been able to get myself into that kind of schedule, but do you do anything like that for yourself or anybody else?
We do. So like what we did a lot of for Social Media Examiner is we would do a lot of quote graphics, and we do a lot of, I try to alternate dark and light. We've kind of changed that now. But we always try to do a Throwback Thursday of like a picture of people at the party. And the funny thing is a lot of times they're wearing name tags, and I can zoom in on the photo and find out who they are. And if they're on Instagram, I always try to, tag them in that post. And so that's really cool. And then we also cross promote that to a page that we do for Social Media Marketing World. But yeah, so if there's something like that, I mean, I'm always trying to hit the holidays for the brands that I manage. Like I'll try to, we just had Christmas and New Year's. I always try to find something that fits in the brand that just, says something like that. You can also, if you're struggling for content and what to post, look for some of those silly national holidays. Like we did one yesterday. It was like National Clean Off Your Desk Day, and we posted something like that on Social Media Examiner.
I wish I'd seen that.
I have a cone of cleanliness, so you can't see my messy desk. But so there's some great stuff. I mean, Louise Myers, who's I know a friend of Tailwind, that she has a great like post that she does every month of like what marketing calendars, things to talk about. And so there's people who have some of those that come out that you can find if you're struggling for content. But I like to find those special days.
Yeah, those are fun, especially if they have a little something to do with your work. But we also put out an Instagram planner that will help you get some ideas on what to post at what time of year based on what's happening, what people are interested in. So that can help too. So yeah.
I was going to say, and as if you have an event, like leading up to the event, and then like even after the event, you're going to have hopefully a lot of user generated content. Like, so now we've been noticing at Social Media Examiner, when our conference happens, that we start getting people tagging us in the airplane or waiting at the airport. And so it's for us, it's starting to come out, like the week before the event, we're able to get user generated content. So you want to also be listening. And if you have a branded hashtag, make sure you're monitoring that, so and able to, share stuff and kind of spread the love a little bit that way.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So let's talk about the different kinds of content you can share. I know we talked about quite a few of them earlier, but I just want to go through all the options we have, because these should be a part of your strategy. You should think about which ones of these are practical for me and which do I want to make sure I share and how often. And I mean, you could do an Instagram account where you just post what you feel like on that day.
Right.
But I don't think that's ideal. And also I find that kind of approach is very intimidating. It's like that blank piece of paper where you have no guidance. And I might much rather have a schedule and a goal for what I share. So, okay, I'm going to start with one, candid photos. This is the place for candid photos of you, your team, your products, the production of your products. Those should be a part of what you do. What else?
Let's see. Behind the scenes stuff, especially, and so when you say what to share, I'm also thinking stories, because to me, stories is now such an integral part of Instagram that you really have to have that in your strategy as well. Because I think it really does help. So stories seem to be a little more playful for me, a little more, run and gun kind of stuff. They now have the super zoom stuff where you can do some fun things. I have access now to the stop motion camera that I think some people have. It's still kind of rolling out. So have fun with those and play with those. Even if you don't have the swipe up, you can still be very creative. You can have hashtags in the stories. You can actually mention people in the stories. So if you see an influencer say something that was really meaningful, even on their story, you can mention them and say, hey, Elisa Meredith had some great tips on her Tailwind show today or whatever. And they'll see that, and you can start a dialogue that way. Okay. We are seeing a lot of customer service, even things happening, or questions asking, people are asking about, hey, where can I get this chocolate locally? And they'll come over a story or a direct message inside of Instagram. And so even some customer service, you want to make sure you're monitoring those messages you're getting in Instagram, because a lot of people are just asking questions there now. So that's another good one, is asking questions. I think asking questions, especially in stories now with the story sticker, don't do it every day, but like once a week.
Polls, you mean?
Yeah, those polls, those
Instagram
those story
really
polls.
neat.
And now you can save them, and you can, we've actually gotten, feedback. We asked one question, on the Instagram Social Media Examiner's post was like, who do you follow most on Instagram, individuals or brands? And it was interesting to see how that. Yeah, it was interesting to see how that laid out. It was individuals. Most people followed, but brands, there was a lot of people who followed brands, and they even would send us messages. Hey, we follow this brand because of this. You should check them out. It also gets you some other people that are really cool to follow.
Oh, I love that idea. Yeah, I voted on that one. I think I said individuals. I follow brands too, but I think individuals outweighs it for me. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you mentioned quotes. Quotes are still really big on Instagram. User-generated content.
Right.
Videos, boomerangs, all those kind of things. Now, what about live on Instagram?
So I mentioned before that Eric Fisher and I breaking news on Social Media Examiner's channel. So what we do right after that is we stop off Facebook, and then we go on to Periscope, and we do almost the same show over there. But also now, since Instagram Live with Friends is coming out, we do that on our Instagram channel, and we have people interacting with us live on Instagram. And then one of the cool things is we share it as a story. So there's a content that lives out. Okay. I think there's one, if you go there right now, that we did yesterday, that you can see that, and it has a different icon when you see it in Instagram. There's a little play button that shows that I was alive. And so people are watching that and can interact with that even after the fact of you going live, which is very, very cool. So, and I saw Sue B. Zimmerman starting a show, and all she's doing is on Instagram. So there's some really cool things that you can interact with your audience using this Instagram Live. So if you're having an event or a special, if you have like a brick and mortar store where you're doing like a back to school sale, or, beginning of the year, blowout sale or whatever, showing that behind the scenes where like people, in line, or here's a great in display that you've put together in your store, or if you have an Etsy store and you're doing something special for the holidays, is showing you making that live or whatever, or even shipping it out to customers. That is content that can be used on Instagram and Instagram Live.
Okay. I have to admit, I have not gotten into live because I feel like for me, getting on video is such a struggle. I don't want it to ever disappear, unless I hate it.
Right. You can do some workarounds with that. You can actually, with the new iPhone, you can actually do a screen capture where you can actually record that and use it again. I have a feeling they're going to eventually let that go, make it so you can save it, but that's the kind of workaround now. It does. It doesn't go to your stories archive, but it really, for us, it's the easiest. I mean, you're right on top of each other. The person who starts the call is on the top, and then you see the comments below. You can invite people on. Now you can actually, if you have like a group of people that you have like put together in like the direct message in Instagram. Like if you have like a circle where you have like all my Instagram buddies, you can actually send, hey, I'm live to that circle, and they get a notification that you're live and if you want to join or watch together or whatever. So that's a powerful feature too. So I think live is a really big thing that's happening now on Instagram.
Okay. Maybe you'll test that with me sometime. So I
Sure.
can. All right. That'd be fun. Okay. So what do you think would be a good mix? So we had all these types, like the candid photos, product shots, user-generated content, quotes. What's a good mix?
Yes.
Yes, all of it.
The more you can do this variety, I think helps, especially with stories. Your posts, I think variety helps too, because if you open up the square grid where you see all the accounts, if it's always the same thing, people are going to get bored. And I mean, you want to have variety in there. I think that's my opinion. Some Instagrammers, some of the big influencers are super focused, and that really works for them. But I see the most people that I like to follow and I like to see, they're doing similar things, but it all fits. You know, you can see how it all fits together when you go to that big view.
Okay. All right. So how often do you think you should plan to share on Instagram?
Gosh, you guys have all the big data, but I think it's probably at least once a day.
Yes. Yes, so, posting once a day.
Which I'm not good at. On my personal account, I struggle. But
yeah, I'm really working on that myself too. But Tailwind does that once a day. Yeah, and it's the incremental jump in your engagement levels and your follower growth when you post once a day compared to once a week is just enormous. So I think that having this strategy will help with that, because you'll have a plan. You get into a rhythm. I think once you get out of the habit of it, it's a lot harder to get back in. But once a day is very helpful. Okay, so we got to talk about hashtags. And there was a question here earlier about shadow ban. I did do a Facebook Live with Jen Herman a few months back. We talked about shadow ban, and what is really happening is Instagram has implemented this algorithm, because there's so much content on Instagram, we can't see it all. So it's kind of looking at engagement, and it really has nothing to do with any kind of a ban. I mean, yes, you can get banned on Instagram, but we're not all banned. And using a particular hashtag that is inactive because of misuse is not going to get your particular post wiped off the map. It just doesn't work that way. But we do need to be using hashtags. So I think that having a hashtag list or several hashtag lists on hand is super helpful. How do you do it?
Yes, I use, well, of course, Tailwind's hashtag finder thing that works really, really well. But I tend to have a list, and I was in the bad habit for a long time. So don't be like Jeff. Of using the same hashtag over and over. Yeah, don't be like Jeff. Using the same, I found ones that worked, and I just kind of kept them. And don't do that. You need to at least be reviewing your hashtags, seeing what's worked, seeing what new ones are happening, looking to see if they're still relevant, that they're not taken over by spammy stuff. And so I've actually shrunk the amount of hashtags that I've been using, and I've been seeing that for my account. I've not done any data testing on this. Has helped a lot. The fewer number of hashtags that I've kind of shrunk it down to seems to be my engagement seems to be going up, and likes and all that. So I'm still testing that to make sure, but that's something you guys may want to look at. But also this new being able to follow hashtags.
Oh, I love that.
That may be something that is playing into it. That being, I mean, because I love it. I'm finding a ton of new people to follow because of the being able to follow certain hashtags. Now, don't follow hashtags that are like super like social media. You'll get all sorts of junk. You want to narrow it down. It's like for me, because I'm a nerd, I do wood carving. I have like wood carving tips or woodworking, and so I'm getting all these new people that are just incredible. I love to follow, and so use that. Now, the thing is people can train the algorithm when they're following those hashtags to say, I don't really like that, or that's not so you can't really hashjack or like, you can't, you can't use those hashtags you think are really popular and just throw them in there because you want to get the traffic. Now people can go and say, oh, that doesn't why are you here? And that can limit your reach because it's training algorithms and it's sending a signal to Instagram. And so you want to make sure you're using hashtags that are relevant and that are good for your brand. So that being said, that's a great way for me right now is to follow, those hashtags that I think will be good. And even then, is if I go into those ones that I really like their content, and then I see what their hashtags they're using, then I can add them to my list. I kind of have a list of hashtags to check out, and then hashtags I'm using. So, because I'm always finding new ones, and I just, like, when you're going through the feed, you don't have time to do it all at once. So I just kind of copy them and paste them into a document that I can go research them later. Because sometimes you just don't have time to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have hashtag lists that I use from Tailwind, but I also, like, when I'm in the moment of posting them, it will pop up with other suggestions. And sometimes I'll edit it, then remove some, put in some new ones. But I find that follow hashtag option has really, really changed the way I use hashtags, because I have to think every time, if I'm posting this photo, is it obvious enough to someone who sees it in their hashtag follow list why it's tagged Pinterest marketing? Because that's the one that I use, and that's the one that I follow. But if it's a picture of my dog, even if I'm sitting there doing Pinterest marketing, it's a picture of my dog, I have to really think about, is it appropriate for me to tag this Pinterest marketing? Where before I probably would have, just because it wasn't that big a deal. And I am a Pinterest marketer. But now I feel like you said, I do not want to train Instagram that I am not a good source for Pinterest marketing hashtag.
And I think that's important to do even when you have your own branded hashtag. So I have Manly Pinterest Tips, because that's kind of me, and I use that for all my Instagram posts. So if somebody goes, they can click on that and see the stuff. So, like, for the example I mentioned before, I had a picture of my puppy yesterday. Most other times I would have just slapped on my list that has Manly Pinterest Tips in there. I didn't. I did research, and I went pups of Instagram, border collie puppy, border collie, things that were really super applicable to that picture. And so it did better, because just like you said, I don't want somebody to go, oh, Manly Pinterest, that's not, and take it off, and then I get dinged for it later.
Right.
So I would rather,
a scammer hijacking Manly Pinterest tips.
That's a puppy. So that's why, I'm like, okay, I don't want that to happen. I'll take the, maybe not getting as much engagement on that post, so I can keep my hashtag pristine, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, agreed. Although, of course, it's puppies, you're going to get engagement.
Yeah, I know, that's true.
So then I think it's important to figure out, like, who do you want to follow? Because you could end up with a feed that's a bunch of mess that does not make you happy in life.
That's true. And there's nothing wrong with taking them off.
That's right. You're really not going to hurt their feelings.
And especially that goes back to that whole thing we just said about really kind of guarding your hashtag or whatever. You need to also do the same thing on stories. A lot of people, some of even the big influencers have, you open up their story and you see that dash, and it's like super small, and they've got like 30 stories. To me, that's not a good, nobody's got time for that, to watch that many stories of somebody's life.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And so, because people can hold down your story button and say hide, and then you're gone. You're gone until for some reason they decide to unhide you. So I want to make even sure my stories aren't wasting people's time. They're fun and they're short. I usually don't post more than 3 or 4 stories in a row. If you go longer once in a while, that's fine. But some people are doing those humongous stories about like everything in their day. And I'm like, these people live way more exciting lives than I do, or something. I don't know. But
yeah.
But I know they're getting hidden, because people are like, I don't want to see that, because most of the time people watch a story, then it goes to the next one, then it goes to the next one until they're tired of it. And if I go to one and it's like, I can't get through this, I'm going to hide them. So you need to think about that as you create stories as well.
Right. And the other thing I love about stories is the story highlights. And that's a new feature too, where
that is really cool.
They come up right in your profile, right? And they stay there.
Yeah. So and for me, as a person who doesn't have 10,000 followers, that page where my link is, this gives them one more reason to go visit that, and it makes my profile page much more useful. So when you, like, for Social Media Examiner, every story we do now, like if I do one for the journey that I mentioned before, the documentary, I put that into a story. A highlight, so they can watch all the story trailers in a row on our profile page. I do the same thing with behind the scenes. I have a behind the scenes highlight that they can go and see Phil talking about the venue, or hey, this is a person we have on our staff who's introducing themselves. So that all lives in that page, so people can go look at all those in one spot. So it's really cool to optimize for that.
Okay, so it'll probably be good to update those. So that should be another item in your strategy, right? Make sure there's maybe once a week a new one there.
It's almost like in the Pinterest carousel, you know, the carousel, it's almost that kind of thinking. Okay, you want to change those out every once in a while. Just like, you know, now with the highlights, it's almost the same kind of thing.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, so then we need to have a strategy for engagement. So I've heard some people say they'll go on for 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. I don't think I even spend that much time, but if you want to make sure you interact with certain people, and you might even have a list of certain handles that you want to make sure you're always engaging with. How do you do that?
It's hard. That's the hardest thing, I think, with Instagram, unless you're using the third-party tool, is to monitor comments and engagement. Peg's big thing is she says most engagement happens right at the beginning. So she doesn't set it and forget it. She sticks around, answers comments. She's got a monster account, so that can take some time, but she finds that it's worth doing. So I'm like you, like for the Social Media Examiner account, I usually go in the evenings before I shut things down and check the comments and respond to every one of them, unless it's spam. If it's a robot, they're out of there. But if it's something, even if it's like a emoji and I can't tell if it's a robot or not, I'll usually like thumbs up it or something, just so it shows Instagram that I am engaging with the post. So I go in and do that at night, but also Eric Fish and I kind of tag team on the questions we get through direct inside of Instagram. So he'll usually do some in the morning, answer the questions, and then if he misses any, I'll go in the evening when I'm doing all the other stuff and check that. For my personal one, I try to do it like twice a day, but sometimes it's hard. And I always, you know, I think you can also go in and give a heart to people. If you don't have time for a comment, at least do the heart. So
okay, good. So that you can, in the Tailwind Instagram, it's really easy to reply to comments right in the dashboard. I like that. But
you can do it on desktop. It's easier to do stuff on desktop.
Oh, typing on your phone, ridiculous. But you do what you have to do. All right. So then we already mentioned you want to monitor your brand. So when there are at mentions or someone tags you, it's so obvious. That's what I love about Instagram is when you go in the app, you cannot miss that big red circle if there's something that needs your attention. So just go in there, check it out. Following and monitoring hashtags, which is great.
And you know, Instagram really it's really wanting you to engage with posts. If you notice now that when you are scrolling up, and if you stop for like 3 or 2 seconds, I can't remember, the comment thing pops up automatically now.
Oh, and so I've not noticed that.
Yeah, so it really wants you to make a comment on a post. So when people are commenting, you got to go, okay, they stopped and looked and they took the time to comment. You need to probably follow up with them because they are and Instagram, because they're doing that, I just think they really want you to respond and want it to be a place where conversation's happening. So I have no proof of that, but I have a feeling it affects the algorithm.
You can kind of tell, they're encouraging you to do what they want you to do. Right. Okay, well, now I want to it is to have a great profile set up. We did that last week, and there's a very long blog post about that. I just dropped that in the comments. Cool. And then you want to analyze your results. So that goes back to what your goals are. And when you set your goals, you better make sure you know how to measure them. Because if it's not working, you need to try something else, but it may well be. So what kind of numbers would you look at to tell? Like, how do you know if it's working for a Social Media Examiner or Sweet Shop or yourself?
I go in and make sure, and one, you look, for me, I look at likes, but then I go in and look at seeing, and it's kind of hard with stories. You have to go in and see kind of before your time limit runs out in 24 hours, unless you're using a third-party app, to see how many people are watching that. Now that polls are being saved, that's a little easier to do if you're asking using one of those poll stickers. But my thing is I want to see with my stories, if I'm having multiple posts in my story, I want to make sure that, you know, seeing how many people watch it at first and see if they follow through. And if there's a huge drop off from the beginning story I have into the end, then I probably did too many stories. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
If they're dropping off, then I'm like, I'm wasting their time, or they're bored, or it wasn't good content. So I either need to shorten it up or be more specific, or give them, you know, hit the point a lot faster on stories. So that's what I look at. And live, we're looking at comments, we're looking at engagement. When we're going live, we can see the comments that are going on. We see how many people watch live when it's over. And so I make a little note, like yesterday we had 63 people watch live while we're on Instagram Live, and I compare that to the week before, and then the week after, and see, okay, was it the time of day? That's a big deal for platform, when you go live on any platform, because you got the 3 different times, the time zones in the US, and we're like, okay, we've noticed if we go live in the afternoon, then we're hitting the the California people as well. We're getting the East Coast people like Elisa, and the Central Time people like me just kind of have to go wherever.
Well, that makes sense. So I guess what I would do with that then is, when you if you use Tailwind for Instagram, it gives you a suggested schedule based on when it knows your people are on.
Yeah, use that.
Okay, so that's what if I was going to go live, which I need to, that's what I would look at and think it's going to tell me when people are on. That's when I should do it.
And I think time of day makes a big deal, because I mean, I've noticed for Social Media Examiner, we've noticed for a long time that it's in the evenings that we get the biggest engagement. I don't know if we're hitting the people who are coming home, but we have a lot of people in the UK as well, and so it's a big balancing act. And so that time of day that Tailwind uses, I would really try to hit that and experiment with that, and that's going to change the more data that Tailwind gets.
Yeah.
And the more you use it and optimize for it, I think the better off you'll be, because it does make a difference on Instagram, especially with the algorithm and how people are viewing it and stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. Because what we've realized with Pinterest, and there's a great article about setting yourself up for success on Pinterest on the Pinterest blog, and it talks about it is still important to pin at the right time. And I think that same thing carries over to Instagram. Yes, it's not all chronological order, but there is benefit in having your posts go out at the right time, meaning the time when most people are going to be likely to engage, because that immediate engagement will lift you up in the algorithm.
Right.
Okay.
So.
All right. So do you want to share some of the latest news? Instagram news? Are there anything new we talked about?
Let me see. Since the last time we talked, there's been so much. I'm trying to think.
What's your favorite one?
Mine is the follow hashtags. One of the things now is that they have started doing suggested people to follow, and people got really upset about that.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, because they were like, "Don't mess with me. I don't leave my," because it was, they thought I was going to show up in the feed. And from what I've been able to tell, is that Instagram is saying in the articles that we researched that it's only when you reach the end of your feed that they'll have these suggested people to follow. The problem is I never have gotten to the end of my feed. I mean, I never anymore get to the end of my feed. And so that to me is not going to be an issue. If they threw it in my feed when I'm scrolling, that might bother me a little bit, but that's not what they're saying is going to happen. Now,
I do see it. I have seen
it. Is it people or is it stories?
It's people. It's people. And it's not in my feed. It's when I click on an image, which is not, for some reason, not working at the moment. It will give me at the bottom of their comments, it will give me people like this to follow. And even one time I saw it on one of Peg's images.
Yeah.
And it suggested people like her. And I sent it to her because I thought it was kind of funny. It was Richard Branson and somebody else. So
we probably got a kick out of that.
We got to laugh at it.
Maybe
I always come up with Jimmy Fallon, by the way.
Oh, maybe I've seen something like, maybe it's this thing was like, how when you go into the feed and it says, "Hey, stories you may have missed," and it'll say show Elisa and has a big thumbnail. The one I was looking at, the screenshot was the people was going to be big like that in your feed, and so I think it was TechCrunch who was breaking the news about that. So that doesn't, I know they're trying to get you to follow new people, and I don't really, it doesn't bother me too much. My thing is the follow hashtags is one of the best things to do. And I think as marketers, we really need to think about, okay, how can we make sure that we're optimizing for those hashtags that we really want to be known for, that people who follow those hashtags, where it'll come up in.
Absolutely.
And so I think engagement's going to really play into that. I think, like I said, now it's popping up. If you stop for a while, the comment box will pop up. And so they really want you to engage. And I think they're going to continue to try to do kind of that stuff for Instagram. So
cool. All right. Well, let me scroll through some of the questions. Here's kind of a specific one about contests. And Raphael wants to know the best graphic for an Instagram contest.
The one that doesn't break the terms of service for Instagram. I'm not really sure what that is there, but you want to, because they're owned by Facebook and Facebook has some terms. You'd want to double check. I don't know right at the present time what that is for contests. I know there's some third-party apps that help with this contest. So you want to do some diving in to see what so you don't break any terms of service, because last thing you want to do is have your account banned. In it, I don't have any idea. But off the top of my head is make sure that it's really geared for engagement. And then you probably want to have it so it's not too salesy or says, hey, do this and enter to win, because you want to be able to run ads against that, and you want to make sure that you're going to fall into the ads, what they recommend for ads as well, because I think that's one of the things you want to do with a contest, at least for me. So I just really double check the rules on that, and I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. And I think I would kind of echo that. You want it to look like Instagram. It should be beautiful, right, and it should be a lifestyle image. And I've seen a lot of effective contests where they say, tag someone who would like to win this. Right. And I've had people do that to me, and I don't mind as long as it's something good.
It's almost the same thing as when people come out with a course. They'll do a post about that. Hey, I got a new course about how to optimize your Instagram strategy or Pinterest or whatever. But the other thing is they'll do a story at the same time. And I still think people don't really can wrap their heads around that having a story and a post at the same time. Really, I mean, it draws your eyes to the post because it shows you have a story. If people are watching your story, they'll go to your post. So if I was doing a contest, I would make sure to do both of those and do multiple ones of those throughout the contest life cycle.
Okay. And Kelly had a good idea about working with theme days, just to kind of give yourself some kind of direction, mixing it up with inform, educate, and inspire theme days. Love that idea.
And user-generated content, I think, is also the big unsung hero that we always freak out about, creating our own content. And that's hard enough. But if you can anyway figure out a way to optimize user-generated content that looks really good, then you're ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay, this is kind of a technical question for you, Jeff. Kim wants to know if hashtags on stories appear in search.
I believe they do, because I've seen a lot of people put the hashtags in there and they shrink them down so they're really small, because I think that hashtags and stories work together. So I haven't done a lot of experiments on that, but I see a lot of the big influencers. I'm like, what is that there at the bottom? And I look, and it's like they've shrunk down hashtags. They put it in the text and put it down there. And don't forget, you can @mention people. Like we have a lot of people who @mention Social Media Examiner's account. We'll be doing a live. They'll take a picture and say, hey, I'm learning a ton from Social Media Examiner, and they @mention us, and then we see that. And so then we can go back and interact with those people. So you could even do a contest like @mention us in this and whatever. So, I mean, those do show up in stories, and you didn't get notified for those.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, thank you. We have a lot of people talking about, he's a photographer and he has photos of different genres like landscape, food, his dog. Should I stick with just one for each Instagram account? I would say it depends.
That's a tough question because I'm so eclectic out there, and it's worked okay for me. I know a lot of people are hyper focused. If you have time and you have enough content to split those up, then that may make sense for you as a photographer if that's your business. And then you could kind of target things, different people you're trying to get in for your services on those different locations. Or you may want to have a big one and you show the variety of types of photography that you can take. So that's one of those things we mentioned in the Instagram strategy, to sit down and think, okay, how, what's going to be the best way for doing that. Right. Some people teach that you should have a Instagram account for, your business, for your personal, for your dog, for your, and break it all down. To me, that's, I don't do that, because it's like, I already take care of clients' accounts. I got to take care of this. It's just too much. So you have to think about it.
Yeah, I think for someone like him, it might make sense to, rather than having 3 separate ones, think about a common thread you can have between all 3 different kinds of photographs. So whether you use the same filter, or you have like a similar angle, or you always zoom in, or you always zoom, something that ties them together visually, I think would make that work just fine in one.
Right.
Okay. All right. And that kind of works along with his other question about putting the brakes on an account's look to start fresh. Just do it. I mean, and just start. It's okay.
You may want to let your followers know, hey, getting ready to, and this is a great way to have some organic engagement. Say, hey, I'm getting ready to do a relaunch of my brand. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Here's some test images, and start the ball rolling, and to get some engagement. Ask them to share. Ask them to, what other accounts do you think would like this? If you're going to do a rebrand, use that to your advantage.
Right. That's a good idea. Yeah. Okay. So we have a lot of people who sent in their accounts to be analyzed. A lot, but we have time for a few. So let me pull one up and then see if I can effectively share my screen. All right.
This should be interesting.
Shouldn't it?
Elisa clicking buttons.
Me clicking buttons. I think it has to be a separate Chrome window, doesn't it?
Yeah, just drag it over to another window.
Okay.
When you can get in.
Yeah.
Ooh, thanks, Ron, for stopping by. I just saw your comment pop up.
Okay. No, you don't want that. Where is everything?
I just need to give you a class on how to share a screen. I wish they'd let you in BeLive share, like that. You could let me share a screen.
I wish too. The hosting thing does not let you do that. Okay. I think I got it though. I think I've got it. Yes. Here goes. Oh, where'd it go? Do you see it?
I don't see anything. Maybe I can't see it on my thing.
Maybe you can't. This is. Does anybody see it? This is Go Work Gear.
I'm gonna refresh it on Facebook here to see if I can see if it's up or not.
Let's see if anybody.
Let us know in the comments if you see.
Yes, please.
The screen share. I don't think it's up there because I don't see it.
Oh, it says it's sharing.
Nope, we don't see it. They don't see it. So,
stop sharing.
Next time I'll run it so we can. I have to give her a hard time because she's
technically challenged.
She is a Pinterest expert.
Oh, that's what I have to do.
There you go.
Yay.
Oh, you have to bring it up there. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I do. And let me enlarge that.
Yeah, you can solo it. You click on solo and you can have it come full screen.
I do not see a solo. I see a whole bunch of other configurations, but no solo.
No, on where you put it up to the top of the screen, there's a solo. There's a solo thing up there.
That one actually looks better, but
it's over to the left of that. It's where you actually have it up. There's a. You see it?
Look at that.
Okay.
It's there. Okay. Whew.
Very cool. So,
all right.
We're talking about this account. Let me pull it up now that I was coaching you and now I don't know.
Thank you. Sorry. No, it is Instagram.com/GoWorkWear.
Okay.
And Rick Schofield very kindly volunteered to have his profile assessed.
Yeah.
So let's describe what we see here.
Okay. So he's got 4 posts so far. Mm-hmm. And it looks like he's just getting started, which is great. Everybody has to start somewhere. I do like the first one he ever posted that has a really cool mustache.
Well, you would. Yeah.
Way to go with that. Here's the thing that when I look at it on desktop, so it may look different in mobile, but for me, it looks like we're taking Facebook images and putting them to Instagram, and the text is getting cut off. The other thing is the text there's a lot of text on the images. Right. I would maybe take, for example, the lady who is whisking something, just have her and on that background and take the text and put it in the caption. Yes. If you're trying to think about how to optimize that specific image to work on Instagram, I would do that. The guy with the mustache, the very first one, very curly, you could do the Happy Movember, and that would be it. And then put the rest of the stuff in the comments. Or because he's doing a contest where it's like win a cooler with a $200 purchase, you could do one of those posts that has multiple images where people could swipe over. You could have that first image with the mustache, Happy Movember, swipe right to see what you can win. They swipe right, they see the cooler, you have the instructions. You could do an image that way. That's just kind of off the top of my head. I haven't even checked and looked to see what hashtags they're using. Doesn't look like he's using any hashtags on any of the like the whisking lady or the water bottle one, and that's probably why it's not getting a ton of engagement, because when you only have 24 followers, people won't be able to find your stuff unless you use a hashtag.
Yeah, agreed. And since this one was posted November 9th, so we have had 2 months since he started. There are only 4 posts. So
Yeah.
we definitely think about that. And then the profile image, to me, it's just it's like a tan colored logo. Looks like just an outline of a worker carrying a beam or something. Not super appealing. And I mean, some of these images are pretty fun. Like this lady's fun.
Right.
The guy, you could probably show your personality better.
You know, and I understand the struggle if you're a marketing guy, a marketing person, and you're in charge of their Instagram account, and you can't. Sometimes you can only use a logo. So I don't hate the logo because that's. I mean, I have to use it on some of my other accounts, and you're just stuck. There's no person that you could put on there, which would be the best. But so he's optimized it for the space, for the circle. It looks fine to me. I mean, if you have to use a logo, then you have to. And I've seen them where they've shrunk them really down, where you can't tell what it is at all. Yeah. This at least optimized the entire space.
Okay, well, I can live with that. But if we're going to do that, then we have to change his name, which he has as Rick Schofield. That needs to become Go Workwear, because you can't mix a logo.
That's a good point.
Profile image with the personal name. And then I would also say that the description, which is workwear enthusiast, really doesn't tell us anything about the account or why we should follow them.
Mm-hmm.
So I would add a lot to that. And then the link, which is just to the website, which is fine, but you're never going to know how much traffic you're getting because it's not a bit.ly link. It's going to appear in your analytics as if it were direct traffic. So you need to use.
So say that again, because I think a lot of people don't understand that because.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I think that's an important one, especially people are first getting started. And they're like, "Am I getting any traffic from Instagram?"
Yes.
Well, you may be, but it's probably not being reported correctly. So that's why she's saying to use a bit.ly link. And so explain to them what a bit.ly link actually is. Okay.
So if you go to bit.ly, you can put in a long link like www.goworkwear.com and shorten it. So it will be like bit.ly/GWW. Because you can customize them too.
Right.
And then you could, when you put it in Instagram profile and someone clicks on it, goes to your website, you can go back into bit.ly and see how many clicks that link has. So that's really the only way you're going to know if you're getting traffic, because a link like this, goworkwear.com, it works, but when you go in your Google Analytics and look for Instagram traffic, you won't see much of anything. It will all look like referral traffic. You'll have no idea where it's coming from. So use bit.ly. Right. Okay. All right. So I think, Rick, thank you for that. Appreciate that. And by the way, I love that whisk woman. I think that's very cool.
Well, there's a comment that Ken Collins asked, and I think it's important because Peg and I talked about this at length. He goes, I can't tell you how many times I forgot an important hashtag. Is editing the post a no, or is it okay to add it to a comment? This is what Peg has found, and I have seen it as well. Okay. Now, if you go in after you've posted something and try to edit or add a hashtag, it effectively kills your post.
Wow.
I don't know if it's because they're going in and they don't want people, because back in the olden days, you could put a hashtag and then you go back and change it to another hashtag and it would cycle it back to the top of the, when it was a chronological feed. I think there's been nothing out on this. This is all speculation. But if you can keep from going back in and editing your post once it's up there, I think that's the best way you could do it. Because I've even gone in before when I made like a spelling mistake and changed it, and it was like it killed it. So the reach and the engagement and stuff. So that's just been Peg's speculation, but Peg saw it too. I've noticed it, and so I would not mess with it once it's done.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Well, you can try it. So edit all your posts afterwards now, and we'll see.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate your tip, Jeff. Okay, so now we have Roberta Luchinsky, the M-Powered Parent. That's the letter M, Powered Parent on Instagram. And tell me what you see, Jeff.
I like this this account. I like the some of the, especially her most recent post where she's got some variety in her posts. I think photography is good. There's a couple times if you scroll down her feed where she's got 3 things right in a row. Mm-hmm. And whenever I see something 3 things right in a row, that tells me either there's a third-party tool posting this or somebody's just not looking at their account. So I would go and archive those 2 afterwards, and take them away. I don't know why there's I mean, there's 3 of the same images. And to me, that looks like a mistake. And then if I go down, there's also a repeat of a couple of the images. So I would archive the ones, like there's a little boy who looks like he's looking at an iPad.
Right, and that was right up here too.
Yeah, and there's another one up there. So I would go and archive the ones that are duplicates. And this is what I do as well. So like for the Sweet Shop thing, we have stuff that comes out seasonally. So right now we're in Valentine's Day after Christmas. And I did their post back in Valentine's Day, and some of the images are the same. Well, I won't post that image again. So I will archive the one from last year and repost this again, just so my feed looks like it's all new stuff all the time. So that's something that I do just because I want it to be all individual photos.
And, you know, anyone who's on here who's a Pinterest first user, I think as Pinterest users, we are not as concerned with the way our profile looks or how our boards are organized or the covers anymore, because we realize it's a search engine. People aren't necessarily looking at your profile unless you directly send them there. Instagram is a totally different story still. People want to see your profile because I might like one of her images that showed up in a hashtag search, but if I don't like the overall feel, and my test now is, did that make me smile? Did that make me happy? And so I need to know if the whole account's going to be like that. So it definitely matters to have all your posts looking right.
I do like her profile photo. I think that's great. It shows us who she is.
Yeah. She's just got her hand on her chin. She looks approachable. Yeah, looks like she knows what she's doing.
Her bio is good. You feel like, I thought that was very, you're driving the family bus and you can't get hold of the wheel. You need me. I think that's great. The Facebook link, I think, is a little redundant. I don't think that you need to have 2 links. And once again, I would change that to a bit.ly link so you can track that. If all your stuff is going to Facebook, then you may want to not. I mean, it just depends on what you want. But I wouldn't have 2 places. One, because they can't click on the Facebook link.
Right, you have to copy and paste that, what people are not going to do.
Right.
And then you mentioned that she has a website link, but it's also not a bit.ly link.
Right.
So.
Okay. So I think we have time for one more. It looks like
one more. Okay, let's do one more. Which one is it going to be? The love. Thank you so much, you guys, for all sending yours in. Let's see. Let's do one that's like a nonprofit, because that's a little different.
So which one are you picking?
I am doing the Rescue Dogs 101. Is their handle.
Okay, now I like this one because their dog looks like the lab looks like Indy, my dog. So
yes,
very cool.
It does. Okay, so what do we have here? We have again an untrackable link, a non-bit.ly link, which is an easy fix for you.
I love their logo. I'm sorry, I love it. I love
it. Is super cute.
Yes.
Yeah. So so if you're listening, it's orange circle with a silhouette of a dog, and the leash is just very cute.
And when I saw this for the first time, I don't know how old this account is, but I'm like, why doesn't she have a gazillion more followers? Because 1, dogs are super popular on Instagram, and 2, rescue dogs, everybody loves rescue dogs, and so I'm wondering if she needs to do some more research on hashtags, if there's any way to use third-party content where she can get some recognition from other rescue dog kind of nonprofits and stuff like that, because I think her photos, I love them. Yeah. I thought, and she mixes in videos, she mixes in the multiple posts of things. Maybe I'm biased because it looks like my dog, but I just think
I love it too.
I'm thinking there's so many good ones, so many good photos on here. I just think that it's I mean, with the one where the lab's looking at you and he's got his big nose sticking out. Bear is sleepy after all that fun at the dog park. I would maybe go. I know you're using Rescue Dogs 101. That's your hashtag. I think that's great to leave in there. But the hashtag she was using was like dog park, sleepy dog, yellow lab. Those to me are probably too broad. You may want to use one broad one, maybe like yellow lab as a yellow lab post, but then break it down and see what other hashtags are working really well. You can use, like we mentioned before, Tailwind's hashtag thing. But I just think it's the hashtags. I think that people aren't seeing your stuff. I can't tell if have done any stories or not, but if you could do stories alongside of some of these images, like when you're trying to take these pictures, doing a story of trying to get these dogs settled down to take this picture, that would work good.
It would be cute. That'd be cute.
With a good with the picture, and you might get more engagement that way especially if you use the hashtag. But yeah, so I think this is chock full of potential.
It is. And you know what I'm seeing or not seeing are many pictures of humans, which people love on Instagram. So this most recent post is a video, and it's a game, a woman playing a game with the dog, and it has 51 views and 30 comments. That compared to everything else she's done is huge improvement. So I would suggest more people, and because it's a rescue organization, if you can have success stories like before and after, or showing the new owners and the dog in their new home, people love that, because you deserve more action on Instagram.
And you may want to play with some filters. It doesn't look like there's any filters on any of these. And you just experiment and see if that makes a difference. And if it is, then try doing some creative posts. Even if you put like a vignette around some of these photos that draws your eye into the dogs, that might be something that you may want to experiment with as well.
Yeah. And I have noticed that on some photos there are comments that were not responded to. So, anytime you get some engagement, definitely respond to that as fast as you can.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. I wish we could do more, but we've already taken up a lot of everybody's time today, and I appreciate you all hanging in there with us. So Jeff, tell everybody what you're up to, what's going on, what you're working on.
Well, right now I'm hanging out with Tailwind.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to, I'll be speaking at Social Media Marketing World coming up. But I'd love for you guys to come join us over at manlypinteresttips.com. In fact, I just released a podcast with Elisa where we talked about Tailwind Tribes. So if you're not using Tailwind Tribes or wonder what the world that is, you need to go over to Spotify, or to you can even ask Alexa to play, the most recent Manly Pinterest Tips podcast, and you can hear Elisa on there. So we'd love for you to listen there and let me know what you think. But let us know in the comments, what would you like us to talk about on Instagram? What are the things that you're really trying to figure out on Instagram? We'll try to do some more of these reviews of the accounts because you guys really like that. But let us know what you'd like. And also, if you have people or small businesses or anything like that, share this to your page, to your profile, and even tag people. Say, hey, you need to watch this because they talked about some things that would be helpful for your Instagram account. We'd love if you would do that.
We would. We love you anyway for being here. So thank you.
Well, we love you more.
Yeah, that's right. So we will both be in San Diego at Social Media Marketing World at the end of February, beginning of March, and we would really love to meet you. So send us a direct message on Instagram if you're going to be there.
Yeah, and then tell us and come up and grab us and say, we saw you on Tailwind's show.
Yes, we'll get a selfie and we can all put it on Instagram. Easy content.
Selfie's only $50.
Oh, right.
Very, very. No, I'm just kidding.
Gotta pay for those beard products.
That's right, all the beard products and stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Jeff, and we'll see you again next month.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.